Welcome to Shady Grove Radio. Good evening and welcome to Shady Grove Radio. Shady Grove Radio, I'm Dan Loggins. Broadcasting from beautiful downtown Colfax. Actually, we're recording in your Sunday school class.
Well, we're sitting in my kitchen, Dan, here in Oak Ridge.
Pastor Doreen Garman, Mr. Joey Simcox, Tanisha Patrick, Pastor Phil. That was the place where I first learned that you had gotten bitten by a lion.
It's not as exciting once I explain it, and all of a sudden this lion just bites my leg.
This is episode number 18. I'm Dan Loggins. We're in month number 5 of COVID chaos, and we are in week 2 of live services on the campus at Shady Grove Wesleyan Church. Our pastors and staff have worked hard to get things ready, and it's an ongoing job to keep things moving. So we need volunteers to handle just a variety of things. And if you would like to get involved, would you please send an email to office@shadygrove.net, office@shadygrove.net, or call the office. Say you'd like to be a volunteer. We have a place for everyone. The church is primarily a volunteer-driven organization. Last Sunday, Pastor Chris had a chance to speak for the first time indoors in a live service, and I had a chance to sit down with him to find out what that was like after waiting all these months to do it.
It's been really fun to be back talking in front of people's faces and not just to a camera
What did it feel like that you've probably never gone that long without standing before a group of people and preaching in a long, long time?
Yeah, it's been a while. There was we've done a youth group in very small amounts, like 15 kids or less, for the last few weeks at youth group outside. But other than that, even speaking to 80 people, it's been a while since I haven't been able to do that. And so I'm an extrovert. And so if you were in the room, you could probably feel that I was very giddy, I think is the right word. So those first few minutes, probably the first 10 minutes of my message, I was probably talking faster than I had in a long time. So I was excited to be with people in the room.
Yeah, you were excited. How do you think your subject matter, I thought, was right on target, the message, the scripture and all? Why do you think God led you to that?
I said in my message a little bit, especially in the inside service, of we really as a staff started talking. And when the transition happened, Pastor Jerry, the DS, came in, and one of the things he mentioned was, have we called people? And we kind of all looked at each other like, we haven't even thought about that. And he was saying, down at 12 Stone, one of the biggest, if not the biggest church in the Wesleyan denomination, when it first happened, they called everybody on their membership roll, or everybody they had information from. And that's tens of thousands of people that everybody got a phone call. And we didn't even think of that. And I think that just started this conversation of, we were so concerned about making content for people to connect with, which isn't bad, which is a good thing. But we forgot about the verbal connection with people. Like, yes, content's good, but we forgot about the power of just calling somebody and saying, hey, how are you? So now our staff's been talking about, okay, we're launching services. Those things are great, awesome, but there's still people we need to connect with. And studies show across the country that people are feeling so disconnected now, like they never have before. And even though we're open up, there's some people who either not going to come back because they don't feel comfortable, or they're just so used to not being at church, it's going to be really hard to get back in that habit. And while we can't force people to be back in church, what we can tell them is, hey, we want you to remember we miss you. We want you to remember we love you. We want you to remember that we would love to see you again. And just those reminders will hopefully be in the ear of people. So one day when they feel comfortable, like, you know what? I'm ready to go back. I want to see these people who have missed me for so long. Or I've talked through all of this.
That scripture you used of the Good Samaritan, I really like what you said. You always imagine yourself being the Good Samaritan, and then you said, "But what if I'm the priest? You know, that walked on the other side." That really spoke to me, because certainly that's a danger for anybody working in a church, that they're not going to be the Good Samaritan. They're going to be the priest.
Yeah, and we all have been, right? If we're honest, all of us have done that. All of us have had an opportunity to help someone, and we haven't. for one reason or another. And so it's acknowledging that, like, every time. And there's times probably all of us have been the Good Samaritan, but it's just recognizing that it's like when we read these stories, and a lot in Scripture, we're not always going to be one character. Like, there's going to be two moments in our life where we are David ready to take on Goliath, and then there's moments where we're David's brothers who are terrified to ever set foot on the battlefield, right? And both of those things can happen. And sometimes one day we can feel like David, the next day we can feel like a coward. Like, it's that sometimes they can change that quickly. And I think that's why reading Scripture over and over is so important.
When you closed the message, you gave 3 points. You said the first one was it all starts with Jesus, and we certainly agree with that. I mean, that's just the focal point of all that we do. And then you said this. You said, if you're hurting, reach out to the church. Reach out to. How do we do that? If somebody out there says, well, they made calls and I didn't get one.
Yeah.
Or I was sick and nobody checked on me. And it very well could be we got a wrong number. It could be that nobody knew. There are a lot of reasons why somebody didn't get a phone call or didn't get connected or didn't get ministered to when maybe they need it. What can we do in that situation if we didn't get the Christian support from Shady Grove that we're supposed to get? What can we do?
Yeah, I think you can always contact the church office. Send an email, office@shadygrove.net is a great way to voice concern and making sure that we have information. We have the right information for you, numbers, emails, all that. Another way is to call the church office or even show up. There's usually always someone between 9 and 3, someone at the church office. And so if you ever want to stop by and say hi and connect, somebody on staff is there to connect with you. But those are probably the two main ways: is send an email or call the church office, and we'll do everything in our power to get back to you as quickly as possible. So
ministry is still going on, and volunteer work is still going on. If somebody wants to serve, you said the third point you said at the end of your message was to reach out to someone. And if somebody wants to say, the work of the church is still needing to be done, and the bulk of the work of a good church is through volunteers. And as followers of Christ, we're supposed to be serving somewhere. So what if I'm sitting at home? Maybe I'm working from home now. I don't have as much interaction, and I would like to get more involved in Shady Grove as a volunteer. How do I pursue that?
Yeah, I think part of it, you can email me at pastorchris@shadygrove.net. And we're trying to build that out. We're trying to build greeters that if you're comfortable coming into our service, we're trying to build a greeter team. We're trying to build a call team that reaches out to people. And we're still trying to sort through our lists and figure out who's attending and who's not attending and stuff like that. But we would love to have more calls or more people willing to make calls and willing to reach out. So those are a couple ways. If you want to make a call or if you want to start being involved in the services now that we're entering back in, like, those are great places to plug in.
So I could probably check with the church office, either stop by in person or call in during the week and say, hey, give me a couple of names to call, and I'll be glad to call 2 people a week or 4 people a week or 2 a day. There's availability for that?
Yeah, absolutely. I've had at least one person talk to me about that after my sermon yesterday, and so I'm working on a list of names for her to call this week and to connect with. And so
what do you say?
If that's something they're interested in, we would love to connect you.
What do you say when you call?
I think part of it is just saying, hey, introduce yourself, saying I'm calling for Shady Grove, and the biggest thing I think is just saying, how are you? Like, not having an agenda in it. And I was telling somebody else from our church a couple weeks ago, so many times I think a staff person will call the church off or call somebody, and when you see Pastor Chris is calling you, I think all of it automatically some people get nervous because they're like, does he have an agenda? And if I'm honest, sometimes I do, right? Like I'm calling to say hi, but I'm also calling to say, hey, would you like to be involved in this? Or, hey, would you like to serve? Or, hey, I heard this. How are you doing? Or how can I help? Or whatever it is. And so honestly, sometimes pastors do call with an agenda. Like everybody knows it. And so we'll admit to it. But there is power sometimes of someone calling for strictly the, hey, how are you?
Yeah.
How are you doing? How can I care for you? I don't have to do this. I don't have to call you. And on the other side, sometimes I think people see a pastor calling them and they think, hey, they have to call me.
Yeah.
They appreciate the call, but they're like, all right, this is my pastor. He has to call me. But when somebody else from the church calls, it's like, this person doesn't have to call me. This person has no agenda at all. All they have to do is just, they're just calling because they want to. And there's something really powerful in that.
I agree. There sure is. When just a friend calls up who doesn't have who doesn't have any other interest in you except the friendship, and it's not to diminish what pastors do and what staff do, but it is a very powerful thing, not just for the person who gets the call, but wow, for the person who's actually serving in a church. I remember when I went from just sitting in the pew to serving. I remember the first time I taught a Sunday school class, it was a disaster, Nobody talked, and I'm trying to stimulate a discussion, but I was encouraged. My pastor encouraged me. The Sunday school superintendent, the spiritual formation leader encouraged me, and I stuck it out. And the volunteer work, I can say, that I've done in church has been, without a doubt, the most fulfilling work I've ever experienced outside of raising my kids and being married to my beautiful wife. It far exceed anything else I could experience, and it really I really hurt for church attenders who don't get involved in the volunteer work. So I appreciate you giving us a way to do that at Shady Grove.
Our church is more powerful that way. The more people that, I truly mean it, like our church of 400 is going to be the most successful and the most healthy and the most engaged and connected when there's close to 400 people wanting to connect and wanting to look after each other. And that's the biggest thing, is that when we try to look after one another and try to really connect, even with just that one other person, it's a big deal. That's a really big deal. And that's when you see our church trying to be bigger, or a bigger church acting smaller and feeling connected, because you have those relationships.
There are a lot of ways to get engaged at Shady Grove, and probably the first one is just to make sure we have your email address and your phone number. And I guess we could just call the church office, or we could send an email to office@shadygrove.net and say, hey, double check my contact information. And
that'd be super helpful.
There's a texting service that goes out where you can text the word connect to a number. I'm going to give that number too. I don't know if anybody will be able to write it down, but they can certainly go to shadygrove.net and see that number. Text the word connect to 336-525-5870, 336-525-5870. And I know Tanisha sends out, she's very faithful to send out those texts and remind us of all kinds of things. And also, I notice on our e-news that Tanisha sends out, we have our prayer meeting on Monday nights. In fact, Monday night at 7 o'clock, it's a Zoom meeting, and you can also dial in. We have this program, Shady Grove Radio, and then I'm coming across youth service in the parking lot. How does that work?
Yes. We've been meeting the same place where we do our drive-in services, right outside the Children's Center. And I just set up some chairs, and we usually split. Like this week, it's going to be high school only. Next week, it will be middle school only. And we've just kind of been rotating through that. And so it's been going really well. The kids seem to be enjoying it. Again, it's just nice to connect with these kids that I haven't seen a lot this summer, and that's be able to do that.
That's on Wednesday nights. Looks like we have a new playground coming soon. I'm sure Pastor Dory's been involved in that.
She's very excited about it.
We have the preschool getting ready to open in September. There's a lot of information on the e-news about that. The 9 o'clock drive-in service in the back. We also have it on the FM radio. You can turn on your FM radio and listen to it at 98.5 on your FM radio, which is great. That's you have a choice. You could sit there with your air conditioning on and and listen to the service. And
and it's been going great. The last couple of weeks since we've gotten that transmitter, I've heard nothing but good things from that and about that.
Now, I've watched the live. I haven't been in the live service, but I watched the live stream, and it was fantastic. Yeah. It was great.
Yeah, Doug has done a great job. Doug Forth of putting that together. He's gotten a team around him, and it's him and Miles have done a really, really good job connecting that and working hard to make that happen.
And that's at 10:30, the live stream, and of course the live indoor worship with the social distancing and wear a mask coming in, wear a mask going out. That's at 10:30, and you like for people to register for that.
Yeah, it's just because it's been helpful. We still welcome walk-ins. That's you don't have to register, but the more people that register, it just gives us an idea so we can plan better in advance.
Your message Sunday, you concluded with those three things. It starts with Jesus. If you're hurting, reach out to us. And in addition to that, reach out to somebody else and encourage them. If you had to sum up your message in just a couple of sentences, because I thought it was very timely and it was right on point as to where we are in the country and at Shady Grove. If you had to sum it up here, just wrap it all up for me here as we close the last few minutes.
Our church is stronger when we look after one another. And as a pastoral staff, we so badly wish we could connect with everyone, but it's impossible. There's no way we can have the relationship we want with everyone. But if there's a few people that we can connect with, and everybody's looking out for a few people, then that's how we meet the all. I look after 5 to 10 people, Dan, you look after 5 to 10 people, and then your wife even looks out of maybe a different 5 to 10 people. And these are the little pods that are the people we're connecting with throughout the weeks, months, stuff like that. Then we step back a month later and we're like, oh, all of us have connected with other people. And now we can be like, hey, have you talked to so-and-so? Yep, I've done that. Awesome. Have you talked to so-and-so? Yep, I've done that. Awesome. And so now we know that this group of people that are in our community is being looked after. And the more of us that take ownership over that, like as pastoral staff, we'll help lead the charge, but we just know we can't do all the work. And we'd actually be bad leaders if we haven't if we don't invite other people to join us with that.
I love that, the way you said that. Our church is stronger when we look after each other. It's a biblical principle, no doubt about that. Thank you for your time.
Hey, thanks, Dan. Thanks for having me.
Be sure to come back next week for more of Shady Grove Radio.